evening, ladies as well as gentlemen. Papa Boris is back for some more Hearthstone arena action, and I've kind of let my quest log slip a little bit. I'm all full. So my third quest came in. This one will hopefully get taken care of soon, but tomorrow's a day of work and errands for me, so if I don't get this stuff out of the way now, I'm going to be in trouble. But luckily, two of these are wins with Warlock, so if I can play Warlock in the arena and win 5 times, all 3 of these quests will be taken care of for a cool 140 gold. That's like an arena ticket, basically. And as it happens, if you recall from our last arena, we do have Warlock here, so let's grab Gul'dan, and let's see what we can do. Well, we're kicking things off with a pretty mediocre rare here. This is mostly just a 2-3 for 2. I'm going to take the Crazed Alchemist. Sometimes this really does come in handy, swap the attack and health of a minion, so rather than this thing giving adjacent minions taunt, where oftentimes it just gets played for a 2-3 or the taunt makes no difference, we'll take this guy, which has a potentially nifty effect. Very tough call here between the Shattered Sun Cleric or the Blood Imp. I mean, Blood Imps are very good and they're extremely annoying to deal with. Sometimes, though, if you don't have creatures to back them up, then it's just a wasted card that's doing nothing for you. I'll take the Blood Imp. Let's just make sure we have one, although I am sad to pass on a Shattered Sun Cleric. Here we got 2 junky things, and since Warlocks have lots of good 1-drops, actually, Blood Imp, Voidwalker, Flame Imp are all 1-mana Warlock cards I will totally play. I don't feel the need to take these. We'll take a Fen Creeper. We've got a giant beefy tank for 5 mana. Alright, Demon Fire is removal. It can also be a buff. It's a nice flexible card. We'll be happy to pick that up here. And here, I don't want the spell damage. Let's take a Taunter, and we'll take the 3-mana Taunter, I suppose. He's a little bit bigger, a little bit more relevant than the 2-mana Taunter. Another chance to pick up a Shattered Sun Cleric. Well, as much as I hate to pass on Shattered Sun Cleric and a Money Berserker, 2 of the best 2-mana and 3-mana cards in the game, I'm going to take Hellfire because this is just really good. It bails you out of so many situations. Dealing 3 damage to everything just is a lot. I mean, think about it. Flame Strike is 4 damage to enemy minions for 7 mana. Here you're getting a 3-mana discount for just a 1 damage reduction. Now, the price you pay is it hurts all your stuff too, but usually you can work around that, so it's just a very good card. Speaking of which, let's take another one. Alright, well, here we can get a Premier 5-drop or a Premier 3-drop. Let's go ahead and get the Harvest Golem here. The issue I have with the Silverhand Knight is that against mages, both he and the thing he spawns die to Flame Strike. So I'd like to get a little bit of immunity against Flame Strike, and I'd like to get a little bit of immunity against Fiery War Axe, and the Harvest Golem kind of ticks off both those boxes. Another Hellfire? That might be too much Hellfire. Let's make sure we get some late game with a Dread Infernal. I do love these a lot. I pretty much... Actually, all the common 6-mana class-specific creatures, the Dread Infernal, the Temple Enforcer, of course the Fire Elemental, I pretty much love them all and just take them as much as I can. So, I think 2 Hellfires is fine. We'll take this guy to make sure we have some late game. Alright, Siphon Soul is very good removal, and these guys are pretty janky, so we'll be happy to pick the removal card here. It's a rare, which is kind of unfortunate. I wish that the Warlock's 1-click kill were a common card, the way that the Shaman's Hex, the Mage's Polymorph, and the Rogue's Assassinate are, but what else? Guess you can't have everything. Here, we'll take the Flame Imp. So it and the Succubus are both YOLO cards, but I don't like the Succubus's 3 health. It just dies too easily for the fact that you're discarding a card. Now, there have been games where I can never put a 3-power creature on the board and I just lose to the Succubus, but in general, I think the Flame Imp is going to be a lot stronger for us here. Alright, here we get either the Panda, which I do like a lot, or the Mortal Coil. At the moment, there's nothing here I'd really want to Panda back except maybe the Crazed Alchemist, and that's not super great. So we're just going to go ahead and grab the Mortal Coil. This is a card I always pray my opponents don't have, so having it yourself is often nice. Oh boy. So I was actually just talking with one of my viewers earlier. The viewer claimed that I kind of underrate War Golem. It's a 7-mana 7/7. The problem is it's just too expensive. So compared to a Boulder Fist Ogre, you're paying 1 mana for 1 more attack. It's just not worth it. Now here, we're unfortunately not given the option to take a Boulder Fist Ogre. It's either this, Wisp, or Abusive Sergeant. So the Abusive Sergeant can be dropped on turn 1, potentially, but I've already got 2 1-drops, and this does die to Rogue, Mage, and Druid hero abilities. So it's best saved for later, in which case the Battlecry can be pretty good. But it's still kind of a junky card. Alright, I mean, how desperate are we for late game? We currently have 2 creatures at 5 mana or more. Still more than halfway to go in the draft. I don't know, I just can't take the War Golem. I mean, maybe if this were pick number 29, and this was all I had for late game, then sure I'd take the Golem. But this is just going to be a dead card in my hand most of the time. At least the Abusive Sergeant is playable. Alright, well, we get another Blood Imp, another Flame Imp, or a Summoning Portal. Summoning Portal lets you do crazy things, that's for sure. But it's a bit of a touchy card. You can't always get the most out of it. I'll take another Flame Imp. It's nice to double my odds of getting a really aggressive start. So we'll grab another one of those. Jesus. Another Hellfire? I don't know if this is right. 3 Hellfires? Yeah, we'll try it. I mean, this stuff is sort of janky, so we'll take Hellfire. We'll see if 3 Hellfires is a mistake or not. Alright, Shadow Flame is nifty. It's global removal. However, I'm actually doing alright as far as global removal goes. So we'll take the Defender of Argus for some buffing and taunting. Alright, here's another opportunity to grab some late game stuff. I do like the Farseer, especially for Warlocks, though, because as a Warlock you take damage to yourself. And I am taking damage from Flame Imps and Hellfire. You know what? These are both good 6-drops, but let's take a Farseer. Could use some more 3-drops, and the health could actually be extremely important here. Alright, we could get some card draw here from the Novice Engineer, but I'm a Warlock. I can always draw a card for 2 mana anyway. Sure, this puts a body on the board, but we'll take the Dread Infernal here. I do love that card very, very, very much. Alright, the Cult Master could be good for sure. But I don't want to take him over removal. So the Soulfire and the Shadow Bolt both deal equal damage. It's just, would I rather pay a card or would I rather pay 3 mana? I guess most of the time I'd rather pay a card, so we'll grab the Soulfire here. I don't like the Felguard. Pyromancer is nifty and all, but let's take a second Defender of Argus, I think. Well, what am I playing on turn 2? Nothing. I got Crazed Alchemist, and that's it. I don't know, though. Defender of Argus is just such a good card. This, dealing 1 damage to all minions. I mean, I do have some cheap spells that I can trigger this with pretty easily. Hellfire's a bit irrelevant. No, I'm going to trust my instincts. We're going to grab the Defender of Argus there. Alright, we have enough 1-drops between the Abusive Sergeant, the Blood Imp, and the 2 Flame Imps, so we'll take a Shadow Bolt for some more removal. Boy. Well, the Spiteful Smith is just a big brick. Even though, as a Warlock, the Enrage is not relevant. This puts Swarm onto the board. I'm not a big fan of it, though. It doesn't seem to do that much good stuff for me, and I've got lots of 4-drops. Granted, 3 of them are Hellfire, so how many 4-drops do I really have? Just the 2 Defenders? Alright, we'll do this, because the ability on this is not actually relevant, so we'll take the Dragon Thing mechanic. This is perfect. Flesh Eating Ghoul, we could use some more 3-drops, and this is a very good one. I've talked very commonly about how much I love that card. Hellfire number 4? No, I don't think so. Let's just take a Frost Elemental for our late game cards. We are starved for 2 mana creatures. All we have is the Alchemist, so the Imani Berserker being the best in the game is very fortunate to see here. And we have plenty of 4-drops, although we could use a little bit more taunt between the Defenders and the Bear, I think, and the Fen Creeper. Taunt's fine. Let's take a nice 5-mana card there. We could use some of those. We'll take this guy over the Archmage. I have plenty of 6-drops. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6-mana creatures. That's plenty. We'll take this guy for some quasi-removal. Now, Panda. What do I get out of the Panda? Well, I get some health back, potentially. I can reuse the Defenders of Argus. That's actually really sweet. These, maybe, but probably not. Frost Elemental, maybe, probably not. Definitely not the Flame Imp. Maybe the Abusive Sergeant, actually. Yeah, we're actually going to take the Panda here over the second Bluegill Warrior. Well, Demon Fire is nice removal, and this is a nice 5-drop, but it is nice to have a Power Overwhelming. This is a pretty decent combo, actually, with a couple of things. With the Harvest Golem, because if the Harvest Golem dies, who cares? You can also combo with the Youthful Brewmaster, so you Power Overwhelming something, then you pop it back into your hand. In that case, the health gain is quite relevant. So we're actually going to grab this here, because it's nice to have one of those in a Warlock deck. And here we have Total Trash. Oh god, that's really bad. This is about as bad gets. Well, I think the only playable card is the Oracle, but basically that card, if I see it in my opening hand, I will always mulligan it, and I will just hope I never draw it. Now, in arenas, there's always like 1 or 2 cards that always go into your hands, and there's always that like 1 card that you never see. So I'm hoping the Cold Light Oracle is going to be one of those cards that I just never see. Like, it's as if I didn't draft it, because it is very, very bad. Now, in the late game, it becomes moderately playable. So the real problem is, let's say you play it on turn 3. You draw 2 cards, your opponent draw 2 cards, but that's all your mana for the turn. Turn ends, and then your opponent gets to take advantage of those extra cards first. Later in the game, it's alright, because you can at least have, 7 mana left over to use your cards with. Alright. Up against Cucumber, the fellow Warlock. Well, these are expensive, and this guy has nothing to buff at the moment, but if I do draw something to buff with him, he'll be amazing on turn 4. So I'm actually going to keep him around and gamble a little bit. Well, the gamble pays off in a huge way. Holy cow on a donkey. We got 2, 3, 4. That's pretty sweet. Now what I'm actually going to do here is coin out the Panda. I find that playing Warlock, I coin out my 2-mana cards way more than usual. So you notice here I don't have anything to do on turn 2, but I don't mind getting a card. While it's early in the game, I do not mind getting a card. My opponent's going to life tap and gain a card himself. We're both going to be killing ourselves here. We're going to swing. So notice this guy's already on the board, ready to attack, and I get to draw a card. Whereas if I hadn't played him, I would just be playing him right now. So it'd be less damage for me and no card. So I feel like the coin gave me a card and put 3 damage on my opponent's face, plus the benefit of the board presence, and that's good. Alright, well, this is a little bit unfortunate, because the Scarlet Crusader, of course, is holding up very nicely against all my stuff at the moment. I've got 2 major ways of dealing with it. Number 1, I just Demon Fire it, pop the Divine Shield, Mortal Coil to kill it. Then, I don't go down a card. I spent 2 cards to kill it, but the Mortal Coil draws me a card, so it's like I don't fall behind. Alternatively, I could play the Bear, let my opponent kill the Bear with the Divine Shield, and then Mortal Coil it on my turn. So the question is, would I rather spend the Bear or the Demon Fire? That's really the question. No, the Demon Fire and the Mortal Coil, they can potentially, you know, be bad later on. So we'll actually use them to kill the Scarlet Crusader. And get another card into our hand. Power Overwhelming. It's not going to be useful anytime soon, but, you know, it's nice to have for later, perhaps. So on my next turn, playing the Defender of Argus just to give this +1/+1 and taunt is totally fine. It's like an overpriced Shattered Cleric. My opponent, however, seems to have a Mortal Coil himself. Ah, well played. Well, that is quite unfortunate for me. I could play a Bluegill Warrior, kill this thing off, but then I have 2 mana left, which is awkward, so I could draw a card with it. No, let's actually just do this. I'm going to put this guy down. So he kind of owns my opponent's creature at the moment. He could, of course, have a buff, but then they would still trade, so it's fine. Alright, the Wolf, it's about as good as a buff as you could hope for there. My opponent is not letting me catch up here, or keep an advantage on the board. Alright, well, we're going to try this again. So we're going to play the Flesh-Eating Ghoul. Going to play the Bluegill Warrior. So what I'm doing here is I am killing off his wolf and my own creature and pumping up this ghoul to be a 4/3. Now, Warlocks are very good at killing this. Shadowbolt will do it. Soulfire will do it. Charging 5/7 will do it. That, interestingly, will not do it. So that's great, as far as I'm concerned. Let's take a look at the situation here. Does this guy help me? No. Does the Defender of Argus help me? Well, it makes us a 5/4, but it still will die to the Silverhand Knight, unfortunately. Now, I could Siphon Soul this guy and use the Flesh-Eating Ghoul to kill that guy. Problem there is I'm using up my Premier Removal, and I'm also leaving the Flesh-Eating Ghoul at 1 health, where it's vulnerable to a host of Warlock removal spells, such as Mortal Coil, especially, which is quite frustrating. So what I'm going to do, I think, is play the Gurubashi Berserker. The idea behind this move is that next turn I can play the Dread Infernal, and it'll actually cause the Berserker to become enraged. And Warlocks, short of Siphon Soul, aren't the best at getting rid of this thing. Then I'm going to go ahead and kill the Squire. And I will, in fact, also take a little bit of risk and play a Flame Imp. So my opponent could use the Silverhand Knight to kill my Flame Imp, but then what he's not doing is taking care of the Ghoul. So he has to make a tough choice. Looks like he is going to trade this guy for the Ghoul, otherwise I don't know why he'd play a Cult Master. Yep, he's going to go ahead and take that out and draw a card. Now my opponent made a slight mistake here. He played this very mediocre creature instead of drawing a card first, and then with 3 mana left over, seeing what to do with the card that he drew off of the Silverhand Knight. So remember, kids, always draw cards first. It is quite possible that after getting a card from the Silverhand Knight, my opponent would have had something better to play than this, which just dies to my 1-drop. Okay, so what we're going to do here is think. I could kill the Cult Master with my Gurubashi Berserker, but then this guy feels kind of sad. Like, I don't need to enrage my dude in order to do it. So what I'm going to do instead is actually something a little bit different. I'm going to, let's see, do I actually even want to play that? I could play Frost Elemental, freeze this thing, use my 3/2 to kill the Cult Master, and then swing for, no, we're just gonna do this. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to kill the Cult Master this way, and then I'm going to play the Dread Infernal after that, and kill the guy that way. This is a bit unfortunate because 4 health is a sad amount of health for a creature to have against Warlocks. You can see how many cards my opponent has. Shadowbolt will kill this, and Soulfire will also kill this. So, I could have potentially, instead of the Dread Infernal, played my Frost Elemental and frozen that thing. But I chose to go for this, and it actually worked out. So my opponent played a Sea Giant, which I'm A-okay with. Because what I get to do now is make a really awesome play. I can actually Frost Elemental freeze this thing and just ignore it for now. That will leave me with 2 mana. I got plenty of health. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and draw a card, because you always want to draw cards first. Well, the Soulfire is not that important. So here we are reaping the rewards of drafting lots and lots of endgame cards. I could have won the game. I could have cast Power Overwhelming my Berserker and then Soulfired him. Yeah, anyway, and Soulfired my opponent. I missed a win. My apologies. Well, anyway, my opponent conceded because he was very frustrated, it seems, by how much I was crushing him. And we make some progress on all of our quests. Gosh, it is so hard to look for the win. So do as I say, not as I do. Alright, that was a good win. As always, I'm going to play 2 games here, and then if you're enjoying how the arena is going, I'll play the rest of the games in a separate video. That game went very well. I could have won there with Power Overwhelming and Soulfire. I should have looked for that. I got so excited about Frost Elementaling his thing that I forgot to look for it. Zan the Druid. Alright. Let's see what we got here. Wow, this is a heck of a curve. This is where it's really good to be first. When you have a perfect curve, it's really good to be first. Because if you're second, the coin doesn't help you that much. I mean, I can coin this out and then draw a card and then 3-4. But as a player going first, I can just pass and then 2, 3, 4, and it's all looking very good here. I do have, 4 1-drops in this deck? Well, 3, not counting the Abusive Sergeant. I think. I don't think I ever got a Voidwalker, did I? I think I have 2 1-drops. So I don't want to play the Abusive Sergeant against my friend the Druid here, who will just use his hero ability to kill it. But anyway, well, we might even get a Flame Imp. If I had a Flame Imp in my opening hit, in my top deck, that would be awesome. Because that would make a huge difference on the game. A Flame Imp on turn 1 versus not a Flame Imp on turn 1 is huge. I just didn't want to send any of this stuff back and risk not having a curve. Well, here we have the perfect curve. What this is actually not very good against, though, is any kind of disruption on our opponent's part. Because while the Harvest Golem resists removal, I don't have any answers to stuff my opponent plays. So if he just basically plays a creature that trumps my creatures, I'll be behind. Uh-oh. Ah, it's the infamous waste the Elven Archer for no reason move. I mean, I get that you're putting board presence on, but I don't know, man. If he had held on to the Elven Archer, then on turn 3 he could play Elven Archer, shoot something, hero ability, kill it. I just feel like you're wasting a lot of potential just by throwing it down there to die to your opponent's 2-drop. So the question my opponent has to ask himself is, does he have a way to kill this creature to stop the Elven Archer from dying? The answer appears to be nope. No Moonfire for my opponent, so that's fine. Crazed Alchemist. Oh my gosh, that's interesting. I could actually make this guy a 2-3 and then kill the Elven Archer that way. It doesn't use up all my mana, but boy, because basically now I can kill the Elven Archer, but then my opponent can use hero ability to finish off the Brewmaster. So the question is, do I preserve the Panda, or do I preserve the Crazed Alchemist, in the hopes that my opponent will do something later? I'm actually going to go for it here. Let's do this. Let's just do that, so now my opponent can't kill this quite as easily. Starfall will kill both of them, but that's not for another turn with the coin. And that's if he saw that particular rare and drew it. So it's not super likely. Plus, actually, I can play Defender of Argus, make these guys both 3/3s. That's pretty cool. Acolyte of Pain. Oh, my opponent's about to be very disappointed about the turn of events that is about to transpire. Oh, I got both defenders. Boink. Let's go ahead and damage the already damaged one, I suppose. I could have attacked for 3 with this Panda, dealt 3 extra damage, and kind of gambled that the Acolyte of Pain would run in himself, but Druids do have a +2/+2 buff spell. I didn't want him to make the Acolyte of Pain a card drawing when it gets damaged 3/5 and just kill one of my creatures for free. That would have sucked. Donkey balls. My opponent has a butt ton of cards, because he only played the Elven Archer and the Acolyte drew him a card. So he's got, 8 to my 7. I'm about to draw my 8th, though. It's fine. He's basically just got the card he got for going second. There's the coin. What does he have for 5 mana? Abomination. It's a well-played move, because basically what I have to do now, with what I have on the board, is run 2 of my creatures into this thing, with this critical 4 health, and my hero ability not dealing damage. And then this thing would basically kill 2 of my things, plus damage another. Luckily for me, we did get another Defender of Argus. So let's put him here. And let's use the Panda to kill the Abomination. Now, the problem I'm running into now is, of course, Starfall kills everything. However, I've been trading so efficiently up to this point that I will actually be fine. He'll have 6 cards to my 5. It's fine. He does not have a Starfall, although a Swipe actually does it as well. Anyway, that was still his entire turn. I always forget about Swipe. So anyway, that was his entire turn, so I'm fine with that. Let's go ahead and... yeah, let's just play the Gurbashi Berserker. So I don't want to play the Fen Creeper, although the Fen Creeper hits harder. It has a little bit less health, and it doesn't get enraged. I don't need to protect anything with Taunt at the moment. That Swipe was very good for my opponent, as was the Abomination. I never saw any silences, except for one, which I passed over for something good. And so I feel like that was as good of a way as it could go. But that did kind of bring my opponent back in the game. He's definitely back in it. Considering how much stuff I had on the board and how big it all was, he handled it quite adroitly. Alright, well, here's kind of annoying. I wish I could enrage this guy somehow, but I can't. So I could run in, go down to 1 health, play a taunt to protect him. This actually does die to the Lord, so that sort of blows. Then I could play this little lure taunt and this thing to restore the health. Yeah, we'll do that. That seems fine. I don't have enough mana to draw a card afterwards, so yeah, we'll do this. We'll heal the big Berserker up a little bit, and we'll play a little taunt. So this currently is set to trade with the Lord of the Arena. If I were up against a Priest, the Priest could just heal this and then kill me, and that would be really sad. But since I'm not up against a Priest, yay, I'm not up against a Priest. Now the issue is that my opponent, after taking some damage, kind of caught up here into the endgame. And Druids do have a lot of big, scary trees. So Druids, kind of a class that you really, when you're playing against him, you hope to be in a better position by this point. So the Abomination plus the Swipe were very, very clutch for my opponent, catching him back up. But I have some endgame myself. I haven't seen any of it yet. I haven't seen my 2 Dread Infernals, haven't seen my Frost Elemental. So I think I'm doing alright. I mean, these cards are a bit outclassed now, but they're still fine drops to throw down onto the board. And the Fen Creeper's a big tank once I can clear this Lord out, so I should be okay, I think. My opponent's thinking either he has a lot of ways of dealing with what I have, or no way to deal with what I have. That would be the only reason for taking this long on this turn. He also has a Farseer. God darn it. Well, he gets to kill my bear for free. That is sad. Wild Growth to get a Mana Crystal. And he's just going to ping me with his hero ability. Fair enough, sir. Fair enough. Well, this is a real back and forth game we've got going here. Hellfire. Hellfire. Well, if I Hellfire, this dies, this dies, this dies. This guy gets enraged. Becomes an 8-1. My opponent goes down to 17 health from the Hellfire, 9 health from the 8-1. He really can't afford to hit it with his hero ability. I think it's time to Hellfire, folks. I mean, the other option is just to use the Farseer to kill the Lord, use the Gurbashi to kill that thing, or even not, just to hit for 5, and then play the Fen Creeper in the way. That's another option too, but I like this Hellfire plan. I don't know, man. This seems really cool. Whoop. Hit for 8. No need to draw cards here. We're just going to do this. Pass turn. This is a good illustration of one of the things I don't like about the Dragonling mechanic. Swipe just kills everything I have. Again. Maybe for that reason I could have played the Harvest Golem, but I see it seemed good to use up all my mana. He has the other Swipe. Well, I walked into it knowingly, thinking it was worth it to use up all my mana. Such is life. Do I have any burn in here? I have a Soulfire. I have Power Overwhelming. Yeah, I've got some decent burn. Plus I have 2 Dread Infernals and a Frost Elemental still up to come. So, although my opponent actually has a lot of cards against me, he's got 3 extra cards compared to me, because those swipes were so freaking effective, that I think I'm doing alright. Especially because I get to draw cards and kind of catch up a bit. Okay, Hellfire again. Well, we don't need a Hellfire now. Let's just go ahead and draw a card. Flame Imp. Well, since I'm playing a Taunt, the Flame Imp seems alright to play. So, the Knight can, of course, kill my Flame Imp, but the Flame Imp is currently protected. If my opponent plays like an Ironbark Protector or something like that, it would pretty much ruin my entire game. But I do have this nice Taunt protecting me from what he currently has, and I've caught up on cards a little bit. He's got 7 cards to my 4. These two kind of came from the same place, and I am threatening to deal 6 damage, so he better, you know, do something other than just play generic creatures at this point. I have a Siphon Soul here as well. That can, if I draw it, deal with a big creature he might play. Hellfire is burn of a sort. It deals 3 damage to my opponent directly. He's got the Mark of the Wild. Ah, that sucks. Hellfire, however, kills everything, but unfortunately this Flame Imp doesn't get to attack for 3 damage first because of the taunt. Ah, that sucks. He still has 8 mana left to play. Let's see what he can do with his time. Power Overwhelming would actually win it for me currently, because I can Power Overwhelming, the health bonus would make it survive the Hellfire, and then I could Hellfire and run in and kill. Alright, he's gonna do a bunch of stuff on his turn here. Ah, he's gonna kill my Flame Imp, the bastard. God damn it. Mortal Coil. That doesn't actually help, unfortunately. Because if I Hellfire, take him down to 6 health, this thing would go down to 3 health. Mortal Coil is not enough to finish it off. We're gonna have to draw a card. We're actually getting a bit desperate here. Ah, now that was a good draw. So oh no, I can't play Hellfire and it! Because I used mana to draw a card. Ball sacks. Ball sacks, ball sacks. If I Hellfire, this becomes an 8 damage creature. My opponent would have to deal 5 more damage to me somehow. I think it's the... I mean, if I Frost Elemental, I can freeze one of these two, but then the other one just kills me. I needed to have this at the start of my turn. So then I could have played it, I could have Hellfired and played it, freeze the Gorbashi Berserker to win the game. Instead, I can't quite do it. So I think the best risk for me to take is this one. So my opponent... oh, I dealt 3 damage to myself. Oops. Well, my opponent only needs a single source of damage now to beat me. He's got 8 here, 1 from the hero ability. Anything at this point will win him the game. Oh my god, this game was obnoxious. Yeah, I guess, you know, I was ahead most of the while, but then, like, he just had the swipes at the right times and was able to pull it back out. Alright, so the Iron Brick Protector doesn't quite win the game for him on the spot, but unfortunately, because of this damn taunt, I can't attack the Gorbashi Berserker and finish it off. So I need to Siphon Soul here or else I lose. Dread Infernal does not quite do it, so I will just play it and go out in style. Well, that was a really frustrating game, because I feel like I had it, and I might have made a mistake at some point and lost it. I guess it was when I played the Dragonling mechanic going into the swipe. I could have played a Harvest Golem instead, used a bit less mana, and keep more creature and keep the Dragonling mechanic in my hand. So whenever I played the Dragonling mechanic, later anyway, it would have been swiped, but it's possible that my opponent would have swiped earlier, just to get the Gorbashi Berserker off the board. So, a sad game, but we're still in the arena. We can still make it to 5 wins and complete our daily quest. So, for that, stay tuned. The rest of the games will be coming up shortly, and if you enjoyed this video, do please like and or subscribe. I shall see you again soon.